What is going on, everybody? Today I will be previewing week 3 of the 2024 college football season. The start of the college football season is just 2 months away, so I will continue to preview some of the biggest games of next season, and in this video I'm previewing week 3. Week 3 doesn't have a big showdown like week 1 and week 2 does, but week 3 does have some interesting games. And let's start off with previewing the game between Wisconsin and Alabama. And this game could potentially be the game day appearance. This is a huge game for both of these teams. Luke Fickell went 7-6 in year 1 as the Wisconsin head coach. Now it's going to be interesting to see if he can build off of last season. And there's no better way to gain momentum in the right direction than beating Alabama at home. And if Luke Fickell wants to get Wisconsin back to being a consistent double-digit win team, then Wisconsin needs to show up in this game against Alabama. Wisconsin has the home field advantage in this game, and they have the opportunity to take advantage of a somewhat new Alabama team. And for Kalen DeBoer in Alabama, this game is a big opportunity for them as well. They could prove that they could still win the big games after the Nick Saban retirement, and this is going to be a decent early season test for Alabama. You could view Wisconsin as a team on the rise with head coach Luke Fickell, and playing on the road against a tough Big Ten team is never easy. I'm interested to see how Alabama handles the pressure in this game. What are we going to see from Jalen Milroe and that Alabama offense? Because this is a very talented offense. But Wisconsin is going to be a very tough team defensively. So I am definitely interested to see how the Alabama offense handles the pressure from that Wisconsin defense. And more importantly, how is Jalen Milroe going to play against that defense? Is Jalen Milroe going to be calm and collective, or is he going to be off of his game? Inconsistency and throw accuracy was a small issue with Jalen Milroe last season. He didn't play his best game against Michigan in the Rose Bowl, and that was against a very good defense. So this game against Wisconsin could really show us if he has truly grown as a quarterback or not. And just imagine if Jalen Milroe takes another step forward. He was already a huge playmaker for Alabama last season despite some of his weaknesses. Jalen Milroe gets way too much criticism than he deserves. But if Jalen Milroe eliminates his weaknesses and strives with Kalen DeBoer's system, then I truly believe Jalen Milroe is going to be a huge problem for college football. And that honestly makes Alabama very scary. I think this game between Wisconsin and Alabama is going to help us learn a lot more about these two teams. So I'm definitely excited for this week 3 matchup. The next game I want to talk about is the Friday night game between Kansas State and Arizona. And I think both these teams are top contenders for the Big 12 championship in 2024. Technically, this game is a non-conference game for some odd reason, but these are both very good Big 12 teams, and I'm looking forward to see that Arizona offense with Fafita and McMillan playing against that Kansas State defense that returns 80% of the production from last season. This game is going to give us an early hint of how that Big 12 title race will look. And maybe these two teams have a rematch in the Big 12 championship game. A lot of people are completely disregarding this Arizona team and forgetting about them because they lost their head coach, and they also lost a little bit of depth to the transfer portal. But let's not forget this is an Arizona team that beat Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl last season, and Arizona returns 8 starters on defense and possibly the best secondary in the conference. On the offensive side of the ball, they return Fafita and McMillan, and they might just be the best quarterback-receiver duo in college football, period. This team won 10 games last season, and they are returning their best stars, and you're telling me their win total is only at 8.5? I would definitely bet the over on that for sure. And I would not be surprised if Arizona won double-digit games again, despite losing their head coach. The hype has kind of died down for this team, but I really think people should not be underestimating this team. The Big 12 is very open, and Arizona could very well win it. But Kansas State is also a top favorite in the conference. They have an underrated defense in my opinion, and despite losing a bunch of production on offense, let's not forget they added Dylan Edwards at running back, who should be a big playmaker for them. And they have a potential upgrade at quarterback with Avery Johnson. The offensive line does have some question marks, but I do think Kansas State does have some solid skill position players, and I don't necessarily think that you need a perfect all-around team to win the Big 12. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Arizona versus Kansas State was the Big 12 championship game, and that's why I'm very excited for this matchup. Arizona, Kansas State, Utah, and Oklahoma State could all win the Big 12, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. But you also have a bunch of dark horses in this conference, and that's what makes the Big 12 very interesting. Kansas State versus Arizona should definitely be a very exciting game. The next game I want to talk about is Florida State versus Memphis. I always like these Group of 5 versus Power 5 matchups, especially when you have a good Group of 5 team in the game, because sometimes crazy things can happen, and this game should definitely be interesting. Seth Henigan is arguably the best quarterback in the Group of 5, and Memphis is one of the favorites to make the 2024 college football playoffs. Could you imagine if Memphis beat Florida State in Tallahassee? This could potentially be a top 25 matchup, and I'm definitely looking forward to this game. The next game is Oklahoma versus Tulane. Tulane plays Kansas State at home week 2, but then they play on the road against Oklahoma week 3. And if Tulane manages to win one of those two games, that would really be huge for them, and it would help their playoff chances. Tulane has some questions after losing their head coach and a lot of production, but they added multiple guys at receiver through the portal, and they added Power 5 quarterback Ty Thompson from Oregon. I am interested to see how competitive Tulane could be against the Power 5 opponents on their schedule. This should definitely be an interesting Week 3 matchup between Tulane and Oklahoma. The next game I want to talk about is Oregon State versus Oregon. It's weird that this game is taking place in Week 3 instead of the last week of the regular season, but I am at least glad they were able to keep the Civil War going because this is one of the most important rivalries in college football history. This game will be played in Corvallis, and Oregon State has actually been a tough team to beat at their home stadium recently. So this could be a decent test for a very good Oregon team on the road, and Oregon State will likely take a step down from last year because of everything they lost. But it's a rivalry game, and you never know what can happen in these games, so I'm definitely looking forward to the Civil War game between Oregon and Oregon State in Week 3. The next game I want to talk about is Kentucky versus Georgia. Former Georgia quarterback Brock Vandagriff will probably start for Kentucky this upcoming season after transferring to Kentucky. So this is a huge opportunity for Kentucky to pull off an upset in this game and make a statement early in the season. They have the game at home, and it is an early season game. Let's not forget Georgia has struggled early in the season the last 2 years, but I highly doubt Georgia will lose this game. Carson Beck is now an experienced quarterback, and Georgia has one of the best defenses in college football. So I don't think they are going to come out slow next season. I think Georgia is way too talented of a team to slip up in a game like this, and they should definitely be prepared. But regardless, this game should still very much be interesting, and it could end up being a top 25 matchup depending on where Kentucky is ranked. So this game is definitely one of the more important Week 3 matchups. The next game I want to talk about is Florida versus Texas A&M. This is an interesting game because these are two teams with a lot to prove, and they both open conference play against each other. Texas A&M and Florida could both go into this game with a loss. They both open Week 1 playing against good opponents. So this game could be a game that is must-win for both these teams if they want the arrow pointed in the right direction. This game is very important, and I could see this game going either way. But Florida does have the home field advantage, and playing in the Swamp is going to be difficult for Texas A&M. This will be Texas A&M's first road game of the season, and I'm interested to see who pulls out the win in this game. The next game I want to talk about is TCU versus UCF, and this should really be a fun game. These are two teams that could likely take a step forward in 2024. UCF added a lot through the transfer portal, including former Arkansas quarterback KJ Jefferson, who I think is really underrated. And UCF will likely have one of the top offenses in the Big 12, and they might just be a sleeper to make the Big 12 championship game. TCU returned 70% of the production from last year, and you have to believe head coach Sonny Dykes is trying to get them back on the right track after a disappointing 5-7 season. And I know this could be said for a lot of games, but this game is a must-win for both these teams if they want to be competitive in the Big 12. This should definitely be a fun, high-scoring game, and I'm looking forward to this game. The next game I want to talk about is Kansas versus UNLV. These two teams played in a shootout in last season's bowl game, so we know these teams could score a lot of points, but Kansas also returns quarterback Jalen Daniels, who was one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12. This should definitely be a very exciting Friday night game, and I'm interested to see how many points are scored in this game. Last season the score was 49-36 in which Kansas won. Kansas should be even more improved on the offensive side in 2024 with Jalen Daniels returning. So they could really put up a lot of points on the scoreboard if they really wanted to. This game should definitely be a lot of fun. And the last game I want to talk about is Colorado State versus Colorado. And honestly, I might be overhyping this game, and maybe this game doesn't even belong on this list. But last season, this game was one of the most watched college football games of all time, and it was actually a pretty incredible game. Colorado State is going to be looking for revenge, and I believe Colorado State is a Group of 5 team on the rise with head coach Jay Norvell. I wouldn't be too surprised if Colorado State managed to win this game at home. They almost won it last season on the road, and these two teams hate each other. So I really expect another physical game between these two teams, and I'm honestly really looking forward to this Week 3 matchup. But anyways, that is going to do it for today's video. Let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel, because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing, and also consider joining my Discord server down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.